it's impossible to hold on to the good stuff. Laughter.
Yeah.
It's impossible to hold on to fun if you're not emotionally healthy, because you allow instances and occurrences to rob you of something that God intends for us to have. The Bible says it's the joy of the Lord is our strength. So if you can't hold on to joy, you don't hold on to strength.
Welcome back to the 2=1 podcast. Jimmy and Irene Rollins here, and we just want to welcome you. We cannot wait to dive into what we're going to talk about today. What are we going to talk about today, babe?
Don't get married until, I'm telling y'all, this season, this is the one you want to tune into, whether you're married or if you're single. Don't get married until, today we're going to talk about this. Until what? Until EQ is more important than GQ.
Ooh.
Now here's the deal. Like, I know I could probably become a swimsuit model. I know that, I don't have abs,
hilarious.
but I believe that there's plus size. We need a plus size GQ magazine.
What? They have plus size female models, but they don't have plus size guys.
They do.
I just realized that.
It's the male models on the big and tall stores.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, but that's
Don't
not reality.
Don't shade this dad bod. Don't shade this dad
I
bod.
love your dad bod.
It's so many people like picking up the GQ magazine, the most beautiful person in the world. And I believe that everyone, if you are single, has a list.
Yeah.
That list is like, man, I want someone with abs. I want her hair to be this. Maybe you're a butt guy. Maybe you're I can't say the other one, but chest guy. Let's just say chest guy. Boom, bam, pa, and we are driven by what's going to feed us sexually. But what about what's going to love us emotionally?
That's true. I had a list. You want to hear my list?
Let me hear your list.
So when I was young and immature, before I met you, it was like, okay, they got to be a provider.
Okay, I had that one.
Got to be an athlete.
I'm an athlete. I got athlete's foot. No,
You are so dumb. Oh my gosh. But like I had to see that they were able to provide for our family, and that they were not going to quit when things got hard.
Yeah.
I didn't really have a whole lot going on.
You don't have a GQ list? Like what I was supposed to look like?
No, not really.
So I don't know if I should feel good about that or bad about that. Because maybe I'm ugly. I mean, I don't know. Basically,
you were saying
I didn't have a list of how good looking you would be. So, thank God I didn't, because you're not.
You were so silly. On my list was they had to be an athlete.
Okay.
So it's like I remember when we met at work and I saw you, I was like, could I date a big guy? I did. You said you wanted me to be honest.
Okay, go ahead.
I was like, can I date him? Then I
was
saw you.
265.
Right, but I saw you on the basketball court. Babe, you were fast. And I was like, all right, big man got some speed.
Absolutely.
Okay, I can work with that. So, but I realized that it wasn't all about just the GQ, about the outward appearance in terms of like you having a six pack. You had a keg. I can deal with your keg.
No. Back then,
what?
It wasn't a keg. It was. I had muscles under a layer of sweater, under a layer of warmth.
Yes.
Right. It was cold in Maryland, so I didn't want to all the way work out.
Big teddy bear, right. And like I
so abs wasn't on your list.
It was, but you had so many other qualities that made me realize that wasn't as important. I could live without it.
Yeah,
I could live without abs, but I had to start asking myself a question: what couldn't I live without?
Ooh.
And I think that's what our listeners need to examine and think about when you're deciding on a spouse. It's like, okay, I can do without certain things on my list, but I need to really evaluate what I can't do without. I can't do without someone who loves God.
Wow.
And that I saw you had a true, real relationship with God, that you were so generous. You would not stop talking about this youth group you were a part of and the kids, their stories and the impact there. I was sold. You were sold out for Jesus, so I was sold out for you.
Wow.
So that's something I couldn't live without.
So what I hear you saying is my anointing covered my abs.
Yes, it did. It did. I'm serious. I'm so happy that I chose to do life with someone that, had a relationship with God, that could pray, that could get convicted by the Holy Spirit and say, I'm sorry about something. I'd rather have that any day than some abs.
Wow. I had a list. Guess what was on my list?
What?
Everything that's sitting in front of me, girl.
Oh.
I'm trying to tell you right now. My list was light skin, good hair, big eyes. Come on. What was else on my list? Them calves. When you walked in, you had that skirt on. I was like, I started hearing slow jams, right? I started hearing all my life. I pray for someone like you.
You were so funny.
I literally back then, tell me when will I see you smile again? And I know that's my slow jams, and I know you had a crush on LL Cool J.
Yes, I did.
But I'm out. Nothing about me. I could do this.
You could do the licking of the lips thing like LL
I
Cool
need
J does.
love.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
All right. But I did have a list, and everything was on my list. But here's what we found. Let me just say this before you interrupt me. Let me say this. I think many people, their list is immature because they don't realize that emotional health is better than just physical health.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's not better. I believe it's above that. I believe in my case, I never got physically healthy until I got emotionally healthy. I couldn't hold on to my physical health, my spiritual health, until I got solid in my emotional health. That's why, listen, don't get married until EQ, your emotional quotient, is better than GQ.
Yes.
Like just looking good. And if you're married, and you're listening to this podcast, like, well, what about me? You realize right now that it matters more that your spouse is there for you emotionally than just coming together sexually.
And you know what I'm realizing as you're saying this? I'm connecting dots. You and the listeners may identify with this. You're like, oh, okay, don't get married until my emotional intelligence, emotional quotient. So that's your awareness of your own emotions and managing them, being able to manage your emotions in moderation, identify them, and deal with them. So you're able to say out loud what you're angry about and in a way that isn't offensive to other people, that violates boundaries. So boundary violation is yelling. So, where you're not doing that, right? But you saw me and you were like, okay, looks, my list. But I was completely emotionally unavailable, unaware, no clue how to talk about my emotions. We swept things under the rug.
Yeah.
That was everything I was exposed to growing up. I wasn't allowed to have emotions, express them. So you got the physical list, but you didn't, and you got the spiritual list, but I couldn't keep it because I wasn't emotionally healthy.
Correct.
I got the spiritual guy who was very emotionally aware, not always in moderation.
But not healthy.
But not emotionally healthy, but then the physical side struggled. So I think there's going to be a balance of that.
You didn't get the GQ.
You
didn't get the EQ.
You are crazy.
But you got the what? What was that? Why?
No,
the
IQ? Spiritual side.
Oh, the spiritual side.
Yeah,
the
but
SQ.
Here's the thing, Jimmy. You were extremely emotionally aware.
I was aware.
Yes,
but
and
not healthy.
And so here's the thing, babe.
Why do you keep fixing me?
I'm not trying
it's
to
okay
fix
to tell
you.
people I sucked.
No, this is what I'm trying to tell you.
All right.
You were emotionally aware. That's huge.
Yeah.
You could identify and say, this is what I feel. You were the king of, nobody has to wonder what you're thinking.
True.
You say it. You were also able to say, this was dysfunctional from my childhood. So you were aware of it.
Got it. I see what you're saying.
But you didn't necessarily know what to do with it in moderation. Ooh. So with your ADHD, you were very in extremes, right? So it's like all or nothing.
I feel like I'm being counseled right now.
No, I'm just
all or
giving
nothing. Okay,
examples for the listeners. Like, this is what it looked like for us. So you were either all or nothing, or it was really loud or nothing at all. No talking.
Extremes.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Extremes. So it's really interesting how that played out for us both. Do you see where I'm headed?
Absolutely.
Like, so this whole emotional intelligence thing, we were both on different ends of the spectrum in a different phase of becoming emotionally healthy. So it's like, yeah, that's so interesting.
I'll never forget learning the core emotions, like health. Like anger, laughter and joy, like shame. Like I remember going through that moment and looking, and I was like, yeah, I feel that. And I remember the counselor telling us, and if you're listening, you have this opportunity to explore your emotions.
Yeah.
You can literally go online and type in 8 core emotions, and you will find the emotions and learn how to go internally. Being emotionally mature is being able to describe what you're feeling right now, that no one can make you feel that. It comes up inside of us, and we've gotten better at this. I won't say good at it, because it's still hard when you're pissed off and
but
you're like,
I'm more
I just want to be
emotionally literate
angry
today than I ever was.
Yeah, but I think this: if we don't become healthy, emotionally healthy, we hold our potential spouse emotionally hostage.
Ooh, that's so
If we don't become emotionally healthy, we'll hold the person across from us emotionally hostage. It's kind of like this. If I don't know that I'm angry and why I'm angry, and I think you made me angry, me not yelling was not healthy. I just thought I was healed at first. Man, I'm not angry anymore. No, I would hold you hostage by going silent.
It's true.
And starving you from relationship and conversation with me. Let me tell you something. The people who are married right now, you know exactly what I am talking about. I'm going to withhold joy. I'm going to withhold, and I'm going to shame you. I'm going to withhold sex. And so here's the deal. We have to become emotionally healthy so we don't hold the person that you're thinking about married emotionally hostage. And let me tell you how you do that. You cannot do that. If you're not married yet and you're dating someone, or you're looking to date someone, look how they respond to disappointment. Look how they respond when things don't work out or failure. Look how they respond at a restaurant when their order isn't right. Does a wrong order, just because they didn't get their steak, medium rare instead of medium well, does that rob the whole night? That's an emotionally unhealthy person.
Right. Because it's the extreme of the emotion. And what I heard you say is it's also the other end of the spectrum where there's no emotion. That's a red flag. Like, something really critical happens and, disturbing even to you. And you're looking at me and you're like, Irene, why don't you have a reaction? Because I'm numb to it.
Wow.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that has happened where, we're like, why aren't you reacting? And it's because there's a trauma that, I don't want to, maybe I've desensitized from.
Wow.
And so it's really interesting how our emotions tell us so much, but, not having emotional literacy, not having a way to understand what's happening.
Wow.
Like, so identifying the emotion, putting language to it, that raises our emotional quotient.
Yeah.
And it also creates safety in our marriages. Like, we need that so desperately, and we need to teach our kids that.
Yeah.
There's this whole thing. We used to own a child care center.
Yes, we did.
And
don't remind me.
And one of the
like
things,
200 kids at once in our child care center.
Yeah. One of the things we invested in was teaching the parents how to help their children develop language to go with their emotions.
Yeah.
And we noticed that there was a whole curriculum around it, and the kids become more confident when they know how to manage their own emotions.
Yeah.
Remember Tucker the turtle?
Yeah.
So if Tucker would get hit with a block in the head and he'd get angry, right?
Yeah.
So we would tell Tucker to go tuck his head into his shell.
Yeah.
And we had this like box that we painted into a tortoise shell, and the kids would go inside and they would take deep breaths and they would learn to calm themselves.
Ooh.
And
We need adult
come on.
Tucker the turtles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so go into your shell, take a deep breath, think about what happened. What do I feel about this? Oh, I'm angry because someone threw a block at me. Okay. Take a deep breath to calm, because when you're in an emotionally charged state, you can't think logically. So once you cause your body and your nervous system to get out of the, fight, flight, or freeze, then you can think logically on how you're going to respond. So we even taught the kids, like, now think about a solution to the problem. So what words are you going to use to go confront your spouse, confront this person that hit you with a block? So if we start it young, I believe that's how we can break these dysfunctional cycles and have happier marriages. You know what I mean? And leave that legacy
Absolutely.
of health.
What I love about this conversation is we have to understand like it's impossible to hold on to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Joy, it's impossible to hold on to the good stuff. Laughter, it's impossible to hold on to fun if you're not emotionally healthy, because you allow instances and occurrences to rob you of something that God intends for us to have. The Bible says it's the joy of the Lord is our strength. So if you can't hold on to joy, you don't hold on to strength, right? And I was thinking about this. I'm like not a handyman, right? So like I don't have a lot of tools. I actually went through the tool drawer this week and realized like I don't have a screwdriver.
Oh my God.
I don't have a screwdriver. You know what I use? A butter knife. Butter knife, our producers are in here. If you got a butter knife, you can put peanut butter on a sandwich. You can put jelly on a sandwich, right? If you got a butter knife, it'll open a box. Come on, that Amazon box, you use that butter knife. It's like the utility tool, right? I don't have tools. That has nothing to do with what I'm saying. I just don't have tools. But where I'm going with this is this. I tried to paint our refrigerator, and I painted our refrigerator because a little strip needed to be black because we have a cabinet. Long story, but anyway, I tried to paint, and I put the paint on, and I closed the refrigerator, and like 3 days, the paint started to come off, and I was like, I just painted that. And see, I'm not a handy guy, so I didn't know that the surface needed to be prepared to hold on to what we put onto it. So in other words, I should have sanded the metal. I should have put primer on the metal so that it could hold on to the paint or what I was applying to it.
Right.
I believe that when you are emotionally healthy, it is priming the surface. It is sanding the surface. It is applying the kind of health emotionally that can hold on to physical health, to spiritual health. I could never hold on to my spiritual or my physical health because I hadn't primed myself emotionally. Let me tell you something. If you are dating and waiting, all the single ladies, listen up. All the single dudes, listen up. I'm trying to tell you, if they are not emotionally healthy, if you are not emotionally healthy, you are not ready to get married. Do not get married until EQ is more important than GQ. They may look good. They may have the butt. They may have the face. They may have the shape up. They may have the legs. They may, whatever it is, they may have. But if they are not emotionally healthy, they can't even hold on to that physical health. No. And a lot of times people are trying to work out. Like I'm gonna press this weight because I haven't pressed past my past.
Oh, wow. That's good.
And so I think one of the things that I really feel like that we need to talk about and you need to really visit, are these people emotionally healthy?
That's right. Because you can't be spiritually mature unless you're emotionally healthy. You cannot be spiritually mature unless you're emotionally healthy. And so that's super critical. I was drawn to your spiritual, what I thought was spiritual maturity.
It was religion back then.
But it was... But really, it's when you lean into the emotional health is how you grew spiritually, and that they go hand in hand. And I don't think people realize the magnitude of that. So how can you get emotionally healthy and emotionally aware? There's so many resources out there, from Pete Scazzero's work on emotional health. He has Emotionally Healthy Spirituality, The Emotionally Healthy Leader. We'll put them all in the show notes. But there's also there's a Christian counselor I love called her name is Deb Valletta.
Yeah, Deb
Valletta. You can check out her.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she's amazing and talks a lot about emotional health. And there's this book she has called "Are You Really Okay?" And here's the thing: I think in our relationships, asking each other that question and asking yourself that question, just that question, will increase your emotional intelligence.
So good.
Are you really okay? And answer the question honestly. It's okay to not be okay. So what if we paused long enough to say, am I really okay? No, I'm struggling right now. This morning when we had that beautiful moment, having coffee, having conversation, and we were talking about our future, right? Yeah. And you were talking a lot about the future and financially and all these plans that you have. And I started to feel some emotions come up. And
you were triggered.
Yeah, I was triggered. And as I was bubbling up, I was like, okay, right here, this is one of those moments I can grow. So I started trying to hold back the tears. my normal,
And I was like,
typical
cry.
reaction. Just let it out, Irene. What are you feeling? And I finally said, you know what? This is reminding me of what I saw happen with my parents. And
It was fear.
it was fear when it boiled down. And I'm so glad I didn't react to all the vision you were casting for our family with this whole emotion that was more centered around fear than anything. It's like, oh, I paused long enough to identify it so I could, and you nurtured that. Just you checking it in and saying, you know what, I thought of that too when we were talking.
Well, I think, first of all, that was an amazing moment this morning. And we've been married almost 25 years. And those moments have not been frequent. Like, that was a special moment. And me being unhealthy emotionally would have said, that's fear. Why do you have fear? But I knew it was fear, but I just settled and I allowed you to explore it because I was emotionally astute in that moment.
Yes.
And so when you did that and you said, no, that's fear, I didn't have to say it. But when you're not emotionally healthy, you feel like you got to tell everybody what's wrong. And here's what I want.
And I also appreciate the fact that you didn't try to fix it.
I didn't. I just listened. Here's what I want you to do if you're listening right now. You're married and you're like, yeah, I haven't been emotionally healthy. I haven't been emotionally available. You know, I haven't been a safe place for my spouse to even express their emotions. Or you're single and you're like, yeah, I feel anger. I feel grief. I feel shame about something. The person that you're thinking about marrying, are they a safe place? Are they emotionally healthy enough to not condemn your journey? It's kind of like when you go to a hotel or somewhere and it says, please excuse our mess. We're a work in progress.
Yeah.
Like, emotionally healthy people, they understand that they're a work in progress and you're a work in progress. Here's what I want to say. Emotions are simply intuitive indicators that allow you to express, explore, and ask yourself, am I healthy in this area?
Right.
The problem is we never have a safe enough person or a safe enough place that allows you to explore. So I want to just not play a little game. Let's do a little exercise.
Okay.
I'm going to say a word. And if you're listening, I want you to think of the last time you felt this emotion. And we're just going to give it some space. And we're going to ask ourselves, where does that come from? So let's just start with joy.
Do you want me to say it? When I experienced joy?
I want us to explore it for just a pause, a brief moment. Joy. If you're listening, think about the last time you experienced joy. You got it?
Got it.
Can you share?
I experienced joy when I saw you and Jaden playing golf together and having like the most incredible dad-son conversations, taking pictures, and just it brought me to tears. I'm so grateful. It made me so happy to see you two happy in your relationship together.
Thank you for noticing. If you're listening, I want now to help you do something. You have to remember those moments of joy. Now, here's why. What you don't know, and I'm just going to share this, is Irene had a fear that my son and I, who in his teenage years, we did not have a very good relationship. And God gave you the memory. God allowed that moment to happen, right?
Yeah.
So that you could witness it.
That's good.
To heal the fear of another moment.
I can see that.
So I'm going to say another word. If you're listening, and I want to show you how when you go on an exploration, EQ, emotionally healthy, it's not about what's in front of you. It's mostly about what's behind you. Anger.
Anger.
Can I do it? I felt anger yesterday at the airport when my bag didn't come and there wasn't enough people to help, there wasn't enough employees there on the airline to help. And my bag was sitting right inside of the door. All they had to do was push the button, my golf bag. And I started going through all of these thoughts of maybe my golf clubs are lost and maybe da-da-da-da. And what I felt in the moment, it wasn't the people. It wasn't the staff. You know what it was?
What?
I didn't feel important.
That's good.
And on the car ride, on the way over here, I thought back of all the times I didn't feel important. And I decided in that moment, I told you I did good. I called my son that night and he goes, "How was your flight?" And I said, "It was horrible, but I did good. I didn't yell."
Yep.
But guess what? I didn't yell because I went on an exploration to say it's nobody's fault that I would be angry. It's mine. Where's that coming from?
Right. That
good. Is EQ.
That's EQ. Emotional intelligence, emotional quotient.
Emotional quotient, listeners.
Yes.
It's EQ over GQ. Every time. Do not get married until EQ is more important than GQ.
That's right.
All of our listeners, this is the 2=1 Marriage Podcast, and we want you to subscribe. We want you to listen. We want you to rate our podcast a 5, of course.
Of course.
You can keep your 4 in your pocket. We'll take your 5. We'll see y'all at the next episode. God bless.